Another thing we're able to look at is web usage and the extent to which these devices are using the web. What types of sites are being visited? The data on the left, again, is fresh. It's just from last week. And you can see the percent of daily time spent in different categories. The good news here is the biggest category is education and online learning. Thank goodness those kids are doing what they should, right? So 33% of usage. The next bucket, entertainment and video. Now you think, oh, they're just kind of slacking, right? That's really not the case. I mean, keep in mind, YouTube is part of that. And YouTube is used quite a bit for education, right? Teachers will push out YouTube videos to teach lessons, et cetera. So, we were a little relieved when we looked at this data, and it's like, hey, this is pretty good. It looks like the devices are being used for what they're supposed to be used. What they're being used for is appropriate. Also, you look at the data on the right. What we did there is we pulled some top platforms such as YouTube, the Google Suite, Meet, Docs, Classroom, and we looked at the percent of time spent on these devices, basically. And you can see again that these are all pretty healthy, a healthy amount of usage, let's say. And so again, this was confirmatory, and we were glad to see this. But it was cool. We were able to dig into some of these specific tools. And I know, Sarita, one of the things we've talked about is, boy, this data could be used by school districts to help validate, I guess, that these tools that they're spending a lot of money on are being used and being used appropriately. You want to speak to some of that?
Yeah, it definitely goes back to that. What are students doing online, right? It's a fundamental question. And even taking that further, what are they doing in the expected school day versus outside of time? So I know a lot of districts have had to think, potentially rethink their policies on device usage at home. So, especially in the world that we're now in, a device can be used at home outside of your typical school day for social connections, right? For family connections, for connections back into your community. And districts tend to, we see, I think in a lot of cases, want to foster that and support that because we're all having to cope with the conditions that we live in from a health perspective. So, we can also look at this data from in school and out of school. And I think that's extremely relevant because in school you have, there's courses happening, there's school instruction happening, maybe students' free time, but the idea is that they're learning, right? Even if it's designed as free time. And you want to look at, what's happening in those hours, but then what's happening outside of school. And maybe you're less concerned, again, because you won't want that student to be able to use that technology, that device for those other kinds of connections. So you can split it and look at it that way, and not have to muddle it all together and go, okay, but are they doing what they're supposed to relatively when they're supposed to? So really interesting to see.